Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future explorations.
Yeah.
Now today we're going deep into a topic that is absolutely crucial for understanding the fabric of India
Yeah,
migration.
that's right. We're going to unpack the dynamics of India's migration story, exploring its complexities, challenges, and the policy landscape surrounding it.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is human migration?
Yeah.
Our sources define it as the movement of people from one place to another with the intention of settling either temporarily or permanently. It's like a constant ebb and flow shaping the demographics and economies of regions across the globe.
And it's important to remember that migration isn't just about, crossing borders. It plays out on a massive scale within India itself. We're talking about internal migration,
Okay.
the movement of people within the country's borders.
Internal migration.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I always tend to think of migration as people moving from one country to another.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, moving from a village to a bustling city is also a huge shift, right?
Absolutely. And in India, internal migration actually dwarfs external migration. According to the 2011 census, a staggering 450 million Indians moved within the country.
Ah,
That's a whopping 45% increase from the 2001 census. To put that in perspective, that's like the entire population of the European Union on the move.
450 million people shifting within India itself. It's mind-boggling. So where are all these people going?
Well, there are various streams of internal migration in India: rural to rural, rural to urban, urban to urban, and even urban to rural.
Okay.
However, the most significant chunk, 20.5 million people, moved from rural areas to urban centers between 2011 and 2016.
So imagine a population nearly the size of Australia relocating to Indian cities in just 5 years. That paints a vivid picture of the sheer scale of urbanization happening in India. It makes you wonder what's driving this massive internal migration.
You're right. There's a complex interplay of push and pull factors that influence people's decisions to migrate.
Push and pull factors. That sounds intriguing. Can you break those down for us?
Think of it this way. Push factors are like forces propelling people away from their current locations.
Right.
These could be things like poverty, lack of employment opportunities in rural areas, or even environmental disasters like droughts or floods.
Yeah.
They create a sense of urgency, almost like being pushed out of a place.
It's like being compelled to leave because your current situation is no longer sustainable. I can see how that would be a powerful motivator. So what about pull factors? What attracts people to new locations?
Pull factors are like magnets drawing people toward new destinations with the promise of a better life.
Right.
The allure of higher wages, better job prospects in booming industries, access to quality education, and even something as basic as the hope for a more secure and stable environment can be powerful pull factors. Imagine a young person from a village hearing stories about the bustling IT sector in Bangalore or the opportunities in the manufacturing hubs of Gujarat. These narratives create a powerful pull a beacon of hope for a brighter future.
It's like weighing your options and deciding that the potential rewards outweigh the risks and challenges of starting over in a new place. It makes you realize that migration isn't just about numbers and statistics. It's about individual aspirations, hopes, and dreams.
Exactly. And while internal migration is a significant part of India's story,
Right.
we can't forget the vast Indian diaspora, those who have ventured beyond the country's borders.
Right, the Indian diaspora. It's a term we hear a lot, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure I grasp the full scope of it.
Yeah.
Who exactly makes up the Indian diaspora? Is it just people who were born in India and now live abroad?
It's actually broader than that. The Indian diaspora encompasses non-resident Indians, or NRIs, persons of Indian origin, or PIOs, and overseas citizens of India, or OCIs.
God.
So it includes people of Indian descent born outside of India as well.
So it's like a global network of individuals connected by their shared heritage and a connection to India. And this diaspora, as I understand it, has had a profound impact on a global scale.
Absolutely. The Indian diaspora has made remarkable contributions in various fields. Take the tech industry, for instance.
Yeah.
Over 25% of Silicon Valley startups are founded by Indian immigrants. That's a testament to their entrepreneurial spirit and innovative drive.
That's incredible. So we're not just talking about remittances sent back home,
No.
but about shaping entire industries and influencing global trends. What about their economic influence as a group?
Well, in several developed countries, the Indian diaspora is considered one of, if not the wealthiest minority group.
Wow.
Their economic success has given them a platform to advocate for India's interests on a global stage. Take the U.S. as an example.
Right.
While Indians comprise only 1% of the population, they are, according to a 2013 Pew Research Center survey, the most educated and affluent minority group.
That's quite a feat. To be such a small percentage of the population yet holds such significant economic and educational clout. It makes you wonder about their influence on the political landscape as well.
Their influence extends to politics, too.
Okay.
You'll find individuals of Indian origin holding prominent positions in governments worldwide, including the U.S., where they're now a notable presence in both the Republican and Democratic parties.
So they're not just achieving individual success, they're shaping the political discourse and influencing policy decisions.
Yeah,
Do you have any specific examples of their political impact?
absolutely. Remember the India-U.S. nuclear deal?
Oh, yeah.
The Indian diaspora played a significant role in lobbying lawmakers and swaying public opinion in favor of the deal.
Interesting.
It demonstrated their ability to mobilize and advocate for policies that benefit both India and their adopted countries.
See, it sounds like they've become this powerful force in international relations, bridging the gap between India and the rest of the world. It's like a global network of ambassadors working to strengthen India's position on the world stage.
That's a great way to put it. The growing focus on diaspora diplomacy is a testament to how governments are recognizing the value of engaging with these communities for economic, political, and even cultural benefit.
Diaspora diplomacy. Can you explain what that means for those of us who aren't familiar with the term?
Of course. Diaspora diplomacy is all about governments actively engaging with their diaspora communities for mutual benefit.
Okay.
It could involve facilitating investment opportunities, promoting cultural exchange programs, or even seeking support for international initiatives.
Right.
Think of it as leveraging the connections and influence of the diaspora to strengthen ties and further a country's interests.
That makes sense. It's like a win-win situation where the diaspora's success can benefit both their adopted home and their ancestral land.
Yeah.
But is this global network of individuals always on the same page? I imagine there must be some complexities within such a vast and diverse group.
You're right. The Indian diaspora isn't a monolithic entity.
Right.
It's a richly diverse tapestry woven from different regions, religions, and socioeconomic backgrounds.
Right. This heterogeneity brings with it varying needs and expectations,
Okay.
which can sometimes create challenges.
I can see how catering to such a diverse group with a one-size-fits-all approach wouldn't work. Can you give us some examples of these diverse needs and the challenges they present?
Certainly. Consider the diaspora in the Gulf region.
Okay.
Their priorities might be centered around welfare issues, seeking support from the Indian government on matters like labor rights and worker protections. In contrast, the diaspora in affluent nations like the U.S. might be more interested in investment opportunities in India or contributing to initiatives that bolster India's economic growth.
So it's like managing a global family reunion.
Yeah,
Everyone wants to be included, but their individual needs and priorities might be vastly different.
that's an apt analogy. And then there are Indian communities in places like Fiji and Mauritius,
Right.
whose focus might be on cultural reconnection with their ancestral homeland, preserving their heritage and fostering cultural exchange programs. So effectively engaging with the diaspora requires a nuanced understanding of their unique needs and aspirations. It's not just about harnessing their economic power, but about recognizing their diversity and building meaningful connections.
Exactly. It's about building bridges, fostering understanding, and creating a sense of shared purpose.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've journeyed from the dynamics of internal migration within India to the global influence of the Indian diaspora.
Yeah.
It's clear that migration in all its forms is a powerful force shaping India's present and future.
It certainly is, but we can't forget that these journeys are often fraught with challenges.
Right.
In our next segment, we'll delve deeper into the specific hurdles faced by migrants, both within India and abroad. We'll explore the vulnerabilities they encounter and the systemic issues that contribute to their struggles. While migration often holds the promise of a better life, the reality can be far more complex.
Yeah,
Many migrants, especially those moving within India, face significant challenges.
that's right. We often hear about the successes of the diaspora, but it's crucial to acknowledge the struggles faced by those who migrate within India's borders.
Yeah.
What are some of the most pressing issues they encounter?
One of the most significant challenges is the prevalence of informal employment.
Okay.
Imagine working without job security,
Right.
benefits, or even a written contract.
Wow.
You're at the mercy of your employer, vulnerable to exploitation and unfair treatment.
Yeah.
This is the reality for a vast majority of internal migrants who end up working in the informal sector,
Right.
often in construction, domestic work, or small-scale industries.
It's like being stuck in a system where your rights are easily ignored and you're constantly facing uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I imagine this informality makes it incredibly difficult to access basic services and benefits, right?
Yes, exactly. Without proper documentation and formal employment records, accessing essential services like subsidized food, healthcare, and education becomes a bureaucratic nightmare. They're often excluded from government schemes and social safety nets that could provide much-needed support.
It's like they're invisible to the system, their needs overlooked, and their contributions undervalued.
Yeah.
It creates a vicious cycle of vulnerability and marginalization. What about the issue of housing? Where do these millions of migrants find a place to live in already crowded cities?
Affordable housing is a major hurdle for internal migrants.
Right.
Many end up living in overcrowded slums,
Oh, wow.
lacking basic amenities like sanitation, clean water, and electricity.
It's a stark reminder of the deep inequalities that persist within our society. And I imagine that the lack of affordable housing also makes them susceptible to exploitation by landlords and those who control access to these limited resources.
Absolutely. They often face exorbitant rents, substandard living conditions,
Wow.
and the constant threat of eviction. And the challenges don't end there.
Right.
Many internal migrants also struggle with the lack of proper identification documents.
So even if they're willing to endure these hardships in the hope of a better future,
Yeah,
they lack the basic proof of identity needed to navigate everyday life.
exactly. Without documents like Aadhaar cards or voter IDs, they're denied access to essential services,
Right.
banking facilities, and even the ability to exercise their right to vote. It's a form of exclusion that further marginalizes them and makes it difficult to break free from the cycle of poverty.
It's heartbreaking to think about the layers of vulnerability they face just trying to build a better life for themselves and their families.
Yeah.
What about the impact on families? We touched upon this briefly earlier,
Mhm.
but it's a topic that deserves further exploration.
The social and emotional toll on families separated by migration is significant.
Yeah.
Think about children left behind in villages while their parents work in distant cities.
Right.
They miss out on parental care,
Yeah.
face emotional distress, and often struggle in school due to a lack of support.
It's a hidden cost of migration, the sacrifices made by families in pursuit of economic opportunities. It makes you realize that the decision to migrate is rarely taken lightly. It's often driven by a sense of desperation, a need to escape poverty and provide for loved ones,
Yeah.
even if it means enduring hardship and separation.
You're right. It's a complex web of emotions, aspirations, and sacrifices.
Right.
And while we've focused on the challenges faced by internal migrants,
Yeah.
let's not forget the difficulties encountered by some members of the Indian diaspora.
That's right. Earlier, we discussed their achievements and contributions, but it's important to acknowledge that their journey isn't always smooth sailing.
Yeah.
What are some of the obstacles they face in their adopted countries?
Despite their successes, some segments of the Indian diaspora, especially recent immigrants, encounter challenges related to integration and acceptance.
Yeah.
Language barriers, cultural differences,
Right.
and even subtle forms of discrimination can create a sense of alienation.
So even in countries known for their multiculturalism, fitting in and feeling a sense of belonging can be a struggle. And I imagine that for those coming from more traditional backgrounds, adapting to a new culture while trying to preserve their own traditions can be quite a balancing act.
Absolutely. And then there's the issue of racism and xenophobia,
Right.
which unfortunately has been on the rise in many parts of the world.
Yeah.
Indian communities have been targeted in hate crimes and face prejudice stemming from fear and misinformation.
It's a sad reality that even with their contributions and successes, they're still vulnerable to prejudice and bigotry. It underscores the ongoing need to address these issues and promote inclusivity and understanding across cultures.
Indeed. And we can't overlook the impact of global economic fluctuations and political instability.
Right.
Events like the volatility in West Asia and the fluctuations in oil prices create uncertainty
Yeah.
and can have a ripple effect on Indian communities abroad,
Right.
particularly those working in labor-intensive sectors.
So their livelihoods and well-being are intertwined with global events, making them vulnerable to forces beyond their control. And I imagine that events like the COVID-19 pandemic exposed their vulnerabilities in ways we hadn't anticipated.
Absolutely. The pandemic was a wake-up call, highlighting the precariousness of their situation, especially for those working in the informal sector or on temporary visas.
Right.
Many lost their jobs, faced housing insecurity, and struggled to access healthcare.
It's a stark reminder that even in times of global crisis, those who are already marginalized often bear the brunt of the hardship.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what measures are being taken to address these challenges and protect the rights and well-being of both internal migrants and the diaspora.
Fortunately, there are ongoing efforts both by the Indian government and international organizations to create a more supportive and inclusive environment for migrants. We'll explore those initiatives in our next segment.
Welcome back to a deep dive into India's migration story. We've explored the push and pull factors driving this massive movement of people, the triumphs and struggles of the Indian diaspora, and the challenges faced by internal migrants. Now let's shift our focus to the initiatives aimed at creating a more just and equitable landscape for migrants.
That's right. Recognizing the complexities and vulnerabilities faced by migrants, the Indian government has implemented a range of policies and programs over the years. These initiatives target both internal migrants and the diaspora with the aim of ensuring their well-being and integrating them into the fabric of society.
That sounds promising. Can you give us some specific examples of these government initiatives? I'm particularly interested in those aimed at protecting the rights of internal migrants who, as we've discussed, face significant hurdles.
One of the key pieces of legislation is the Interstate Migrant Workmen Act of 1979. This act was specifically designed to protect the rights of migrant workers who move from one state to another for employment. It mandates registration of workers, ensures timely payment of wages, and sets standards for working conditions.
That sounds like a step in the right direction, providing a legal framework to prevent exploitation and safeguard their basic rights. But how effective has this act been in practice?
While the act provides a legal safety net, enforcement remains a challenge. The informal nature of much migrant work makes it difficult to monitor and regulate. There's a need for greater awareness among migrant workers about their rights and stronger mechanisms to ensure compliance by employers.
So it's not just about having laws on paper. What about ensuring they translate into real change on the ground? What other initiatives are being implemented to support internal migrants?
The government has also been focusing on rural development programs to address the root causes of migration. By creating more employment opportunities and improving living conditions in rural areas, the hope is to reduce the push factors that compel people to leave their homes in search of a better life.
That makes sense. If people have viable options in their villages, they might be less likely to undertake the risky and often challenging journey of migration. Can you give us some examples of these rural development programs?
Programs like the Dindayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihoods Mission, or DANRLM, are focused on empowering rural communities by promoting self-employment and skill development. They provide financial assistance training and support for setting up small businesses and income-generating activities.
So it's about investing in people and their potential, giving them the tools to build a sustainable livelihood within their own communities. Are there any specific programs aimed at providing a safety net for those who might still need to migrate for work?
Absolutely. The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, or MGNREGA, guarantees 100 days of paid work per year to rural households. This acts as a safety net, ensuring a minimum income and reducing the distress that often forces people to migrate in search of work.
It's like a lifeline for those facing economic hardship, giving them the option to stay in their villages and contribute to their local economy. It sounds like a multi-pronged approach addressing both the push and pull factors of internal migration.
Exactly. And in addition to these initiatives, there's a growing recognition of the need for better data collection and tracking of internal migrants. This will help in identifying vulnerable populations, tailoring policies to their needs, and ensuring that they're included in social welfare programs.
That's crucial. As we've discussed, the lack of data often leads to migrants being overlooked and excluded from essential services. It's like they become invisible to the system. Shifting gears, let's talk about the Indian diaspora. What initiatives are in place to engage with this global community and address their needs?
Recognizing the diaspora's growing influence and potential, the government established a dedicated Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs in 2004. This ministry acts as a focal point for addressing their concerns, providing consular services, facilitating investment opportunities, and even helping them trace their roots back to India.
A whole ministry dedicated to the diaspora. That's quite a statement. It shows a commitment to nurturing these connections and recognizing their contributions.
Absolutely. The ministry also organizes the annual Pravasi Paratya Divas, a global gathering of the Indian diaspora where they can network, share ideas, and explore ways to contribute to India's development. It's a platform to celebrate their achievements and strengthen their ties with their homeland.
It sounds like a fantastic opportunity to bridge the gap between India and its global family, fostering a sense of shared purpose and belonging. Are there any initiatives aimed at making it easier for members of the diaspora to maintain their connection with India?
Yes, the Overseas Citizenship of India, or OCI scheme, offers a lifelong visa and certain privileges to people of Indian origin who wish to retain their connection with India. It's like a symbolic bridge acknowledging their heritage and making it easier for them to visit live and even invest in India.
It sounds like a win-win situation benefiting both the diaspora and India. But are there any challenges in engaging with such a vast and diverse community?
Certainly. One of the key challenges is effectively communicating with and addressing the needs of such a heterogeneous group. The diaspora is spread across the globe with varying motivations, priorities, and levels of engagement.
It's like trying to manage a global family reunion, where everyone wants to be included but has different expectations and needs. It requires a nuanced approach that goes beyond one-size-fits-all solutions.
You're absolutely right. Effective diaspora engagement requires constant adaptation, listening to their concerns, and creating tailored initiatives that resonate with their aspirations. And of course, we can't forget the impact of events like the COVID-19 pandemic.
That's right. The pandemic exposed the vulnerabilities of both internal migrants and the diaspora, underscoring the need for more robust support systems and safety nets. What lessons have been learned from that experience, and how are they shaping future policies?
The pandemic highlighted the need for portable Social Security benefits for internal migrants, ensuring they have access to healthcare and Social Security regardless of their location. It also emphasized the importance of digital inclusion, providing migrants with access to information, government services, and financial assistance through technology.
So it's about creating a system that recognizes their mobility and ensures their rights and well-being are protected regardless of where they are.
Exactly. And for the diaspora, the pandemic underscored the need for more robust consular support, especially during times of crisis. It also highlighted the importance of collaboration between governments and diaspora organizations to provide relief and support to those stranded or facing hardship abroad.
It sounds like the pandemic, while a tragedy, has served as a catalyst for rethinking our approach to migration management and creating more resilient and inclusive systems.
It certainly has. And as we conclude this deep dive, it's clear that India's migration story is a complex tapestry woven from aspirations, challenges, and ongoing efforts to create a more just and equitable landscape for all those who contribute to its vibrant fabric.
Well said. It's been an eye-opening journey exploring the dynamics of internal and external migration and uncovering the policies and initiatives shaping this crucial aspect of India's social and economic landscape. And as we wrap up this deep dive, let's remember that behind the numbers and statistics are real people with hopes, dreams, and vulnerabilities. By understanding their stories and working towards a more inclusive future, we can truly harness the power of migration for the benefit of both individuals and the nation as a whole. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we look forward to exploring more fascinating topics with you in the future. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. See you next time.